They built the ocean in 90 minutes, which was either a miracle of engineering or the last thing several of them ever did, and in the end it was both. Maya ran the water-softening plant on sub-level 1 with 2 troopers and a terrified plant operator named Sandoval who turned out, under pressure, to be worth 10 of Vance. The plant was a forest of fiberglass tanks and brine wells, and its whole quiet life had been spent pulling minerals out of the hospital's water. They reversed it. They opened the regeneration cycle and let it run wild, dumping its salt back into the supply instead of flushing it away. And they cracked the Winter Bay pallets and fed road salt by the shovelful into the open brine wells until the solution coming off the plant was thick enough to sting a cut from across the room. Maya watched the salinity readout climb past anything the gauge was built to show, watched the needle bury itself against the peg, and thought, an ocean has to start somewhere. This is where ours starts. 3 floors of plumbing below her, Eli Brandt walked alone into the tomb. She had his voice in her ear the whole way down, a radio clipped to his collar, an old man narrating the last walk of his life in the flat, competent monotone of a tradesman calling out a job.
Level 3 landing. Fire doors are good. Ceiling east.
The clunk of a deadbolt the size of a forearm. Ceiling west. Another.
I'm in the corridor. Water's already coming, must be the brine line you dropped, smart, miss. It's pooling toward the chamber, going where it ought to.
A long pause, full of the sound of his breathing, and underneath it, very far down, a wet and enormous patience.
I can smell it. Low tide.
Another pause.
My granddad smelled this for 60 years and never said. I don't know how he stood it.
The plan depended on 3 things happening in order, and the order was the whole prayer. First, the brine had to fill the tomb chamber and the corridor outside it deep enough to matter. An enclosed basin of salt water souther than any sea, fed from the cold storage cathedral above by gravity and from Maya's runaway plant by the building's own pumps. Second, the thing had to come home, into the basin, the way it always came home to rest after it fed. They could not force it, only flood the one room it could not stay away from and trust a century of habit. Third, when it was in the salt and the salt was doing its slow work of shrinking and stilling it, Eli would crank open the 4 great valves at the base of the cold storage tanks by hand and drop 2 stories of master brine, the densest, oldest, most concentrated solution on the planet, straight down onto it, all at once, an ocean falling on a fish that had spent 100 years forgetting it was only ever a fish. Salt would not kill it. Vance had been right about that, and Oceania before her. Nothing killed it. But Maya had stood in the cold storage cathedral and looked at what salt did. The tissue in those tanks, small and slow and obedient, a monster filed down to a houseplant by 100 years of brine, and she had understood the loophole in unkillable. You did not have to kill a thing that water made small. You had to make it small enough to bury again, and this time you did not use cement. This time you'd already have it standing in the open mouth of its own grave, in 2 stories of falling sea, with the fire doors sealed. It's coming, Eli said. She heard it through his radio before she heard anything else. The corridor full of water answering a displacement. That long, heavy surge, she now knew the way you know a voice you hate. It's coming home, Eli said, and there was no fear in it. Only a kind of terrible satisfaction, the sound of a man watching the last piece of a 100-year-old puzzle slide into place.
Big. God, it's so big now. 2 days out of the salt and look at it.
A wet cathedral hush.
It's in the chamber. It's settling. It's going to sleep in its grave, miss, just like always. It doesn't even know we changed the water.
His breath.
Start your feed. Keep the salt coming and don't you stop, whatever you hear. I'm going up to the valves.
Eli.
Maya had her hands on the plant controls and the whole roaring salt-stinking machine ready to run, and she stopped, because she had run the arithmetic again, the way she always did, and the arithmetic had a hole in it that she had been refusing to look at since level 3.
When you drop the tanks, the valves are on the cold storage level, above the chamber. You drop 2 stories of brine down the chase onto it and you seal the doors. How do you get out before the doors seal?
The radio was quiet for a moment.
You don't tell things whether they'll hold. Not when you already know. That's the part of your job you hate, isn't it? The honest arithmetic.
She heard him climbing, the scrape of an old man on a steel ladder, unhurried.
Somebody has to be at the bottom to keep it home while the doors come down. Somebody has to be at the top to drop the sea. Can't be the same somebody, and there's only one of me, and the only other person who knows these valves is the woman who'd rather feed it than flood it.
A grunt, the sound of a great wheel beginning, reluctantly, to turn.
It was always going to be me, miss. My granddad poured the floor. Seems fair I get to be the one who pours it shut.
Eli.
Run your feed.
She ran her feet. What happened in the tomb of St. Aldwyn's Hospital in the next 4 minutes? No camera survived to show, and no one living saw entire. Maya knew it the way she knew everything that mattered that weekend. Through a radio, through readouts, through the honest arithmetic of a building telling her what was holding and what was failing. She knew the moment the master tanks let go, because the salinity at her plant spiked, and the building shuddered with the weight of 2 stories of falling brine. She knew the moment the thing woke up inside its grave and understood, too late, in whatever passed for understanding behind that ringed and glassy prow, that the water it had come home to was wrong, was salt, was the leash closing, because the sound it made then came up through 3 floors of concrete and every pipe in the building at once, a shriek no ocean ever made. The same one Halloran heard in 1912, the same one Reuben heard at the door of Checkpoint 8, and this time it did not stop because the thing was getting away. It stopped because the thing was getting smaller. And she knew the moment the fire doors sealed, because Eli told her. Doors are coming down, he said, calm as a man closing up a shop for the night, over the roar of a falling ocean and the dwindling fury of the thing drowning in salt below him.
East. West. There it goes.
The radio filled with water sound and the groan of steel, and, threaded through it, impossibly, the old man humming, some tune his granddad must have hummed, pouring this same floor 100 years and 1 weekend ago.
It's working, miss. It's going down small. It's going down small and it's going to stay.
The radio crackled. Tell them not to dig it up this time, Eli Brandt said.
Tell them to leave the salt running. Tell them.
The water took the rest of it, the way the water had taken Halloran and Reuben and the years and the secret, and then the radio gave Maya nothing at all, and 3 floors down 100-year-old grave finished closing on a thing that could not die and a man who had decided, freely, to keep it company in the dark so that it would never be alone enough to wake. The salinity readout held at the peg. The needle did not move. The ocean she had built did not fail. That was the part that was her job. She had told it would hold, and it held. She stood in the roar of the salt plant with 2 troopers and a man named Sandoval, and she kept the feed running long after there was anything left to fight, because the last thing the old man had asked of her was, "Don't you stop, whatever you hear," and she had heard everything, and she did not stop.